Hello and welcome to episode 34 of The Agent is In. Today we're going to talk about host visibility with containerized CFEngine. So we've talked about this before, but we're kind of going a little bit deeper. Craig, can you maybe recap what we talked about last time? And
Yeah. So this kind of combines two things. One is I'm looking at the webinars here. You can see this, right? Um,
yeah,
Basic Docker inventory with CFEngine. So this is the host visibility that we're speaking of, which is visibility on um, involved with Docker inventory. And then the other thing that this involves tangentially is quite a bit farther back. Maybe this one, I think. CFEngine Enterprise for ARM64. No, it's not even that. It's maybe further back. Yocto, essentially. And so, yeah, oh,
IoT.
yeah, here we go. IoT. Yeah. So those ones. So it's basically involving those. Um, so last time with the container inventory, uh, we worked on looking at basic Docker inventory. And so that was just looking at, um, sorry, I have to get this Zoom bar out of the way. Um, Inventory. So this is my Debian 11 Librem laptop, Librem 15, nice, cool open hardware kind of thing. And we have Docker inventory. Okay, so like containers, what's running there? I've got Termux package builder container in a registry. I've got some dangling images and some things I could probably clean up to regain some space. So that's what we did last time. The thing is, though, is that I have this other host that I run all the time. That's a board, Toradex board. So it's got this computer on module mounted on this development board, and I have this just leaning up on the shelf near my router. This thing runs Horizon OS, which happens to be Yocto with a couple of things added, like Docker and systemd, which Nick helped me realize by the fact that there's an Etsy OS release, which I didn't know that was related to systemd, and a couple other things, but those aren't important right now. And so by default, when you install this thing with the default operating system, this development board and computer on module, you get a thing called Portainer, which in itself is run inside of a container, and it's a thing to help you manage containers. So it's a UI. You can do various things here. And so, I've got visibility on, I've got 4 containers running. I have a CFEngine hub running. I have Portainer itself running. Git is like my local Git server that I put private things on and things I don't want to publish and like keep backups of my dot files and stuff. And then this is this thing we're going to talk about today, which is an agent running inside of a container. That's the containerized CFEngine. And I'll explain a little bit about why we're going to do that. Um, so this is going to combine a couple of things. Like I said, this is going to combine the Docker inventory that we have, as well as our ability to build a Yocto enterprise agent. Um, so this is the Docker inventory that we did from before. It's just in a CFBS build project of mine. Um, this is kind of my project. You see there's a CFS JSON and there's a Docker inventory here. And like I said, I've got this in progress meta CFEngine enterprise layer that I can build an enterprise agent with. And so the rationale of what we're going to do today is that I want to get visibility on the host itself. So um, let's see if I can uh, get rid of that over here somewhere. Okay. So I want to get to this. So this is me SSHing into that Yocto Horizon OS host. I can run Docker PS there. Okay, so that's how we're getting our Docker inventories from Docker PS. But um, there's no package management here, and I don't really want to install CFEngine exactly right here because I have the hub running, which, as you can see, is taking that port 5308 so that I can bootstrap and have other hosts in my environment connect to this hub. If I were to run the agent just bare on this machine, it would also need that port 5308 to be available for communication. So there's a conflict there. So instead, I'm going to put it inside of a container. Okay, so I want this agent in this container to actually kind of be like the host itself. And so in order to do that, I'm going to mount the file systems of the host itself into the container, and then inside the container, chroot into those file systems. This is a technique that a coworker of ours came up with a little while ago to try to get CFEngine into Kubernetes to give visibility in the Kubernetes cluster. So we have, so I have a pull request, if I can get to it, a pull request here for a chroot agent. And there's a few comments in here from what we've been working on. So there's like a Docker file, there's a README, there's a chroot shell. I made a couple of things to make it easy to get into various places. There's a clean command to clean things up. There's a script that we run when we run the Docker file. And there's the thing to bring everything up. So the first step in this process, and if anybody has any questions, we kind of ran this through a couple of times, and we're often getting confused about where we are, whether we're on the host, in the container, or in the chroot. And so stop me if things seem weird. So the first thing we do is we run this run.sh file, which is going to build this named image for us to use from this Docker file. I'm going to specify in the environment the IP address of my hub, which is this hub here. And then I'm going to run, passing that environment in, running privileged, which, as I warn here, don't do this on a Linux system that you're running, Wayland or X11 or anything like that, because it's gonna bring all your system D stuff down. And Nick has done this once at least, and I know I've done it a few times. It works great if you're running on like a Mac because there's no X11 or anything, or this system which isn't running a UI either. And then here you'll see that we're bind mounting in these volumes of the root file system of the host into a directory called /rootfs, and then we just kind of follow that pattern for various entries that we need to treat differently. So each of these we have to treat in a little different way than just the root. Otherwise, we could just do the whole thing and be done with it. So let's look at the Docker file next. So we're running it. So when we build it, we're just building a Debian 11 host. At this point, this is where a little bit of funny business comes in. I have kind of manually made a little bit of automation to build the enterprise and agent for Yocto ARM64, just the QEMU version, and that's fine for this host as well. And then we need the LMDB database library as well. And then we copy and these things we could, if somebody's interested in trying this out on like a Yocto host, we can probably provide these tarballs, like just contact sales, contact Cody or Nick or myself. This dunfell here is a branch name or release name of Yocto. And so we probably need to make separate tarballs for each of those. Eventually, I think we could probably get to the point where you can just run our standard quick install script and have these be pulled down. Okay, so the entry point agent is copied to entry point shell. And then when the Docker file is run, not when it's built, but when it's run, it'll call this entry point. So what's the entry point look like? It's this. Okay, so here's where we do some special handling of some of the file system stuff.
So this is
Oh,
happening.
yeah, right,
So we
exactly.
covered this before,
I,
right?
I
So
should put comments here. I should put comments in. This is happening in the container,
right. So
in
yeah,
the
this is
agent container.
happening. You run the build, you build the container directly on
Right.
the Horizon OS, and then
Hmm.
this is when the container is running.
Correct. This is you run the container from that built image, and then this
Hmm.
script goes in that container that's running Debian 11.
Hmm.
Um, so now we're going to do some special mounting. Like I said, like you can't just mount the root file system to the chroot and be done because there's special file systems in there that need to be treated differently. So here we mount the proc file system from the host, this is root proc, into the chroot. So we have to mount it as a proc file system because it's different. It's not, a normal file system. And now we are going to mount the sys fs into there. And so this R bind is recursive bind, and R slave is recursive slave. So what this does is it makes it a one-way street. So the changes in the sys file system on the host are reflected inside here inside the container. Changes that might be made in the container won't be reflected back on the host, and that's what we want. We want a kind of like a pair or a twin. Like I thought of the phrase digital twin. It's not a digital twin, but it's a I don't know what to call it exactly. It's like an echo of the host inside the container, right? And so we do the same thing with the dev file system, and we do the same thing with the run file system. Now, I'm not exactly sure why these two are recursive. It's something that my colleague did. There may be a reason. There may be some special character. It's essentially recursive means any sub mounts that are inside those file systems will also be mounted. I don't know if there's sub mounts in sys and dev. I think there's kind of special file systems. So maybe there's some aspect of the way Linux works with those file systems that requires the recursive. So after we do that, we copy some stuff. So we copy bin, lib, lib64, and sbin. We copy that from the rootfs into the chroot. This comment will go away. This is from when they were working on the Kubernetes stuff. It's not hard coded for Amazon. It's just generic. So then the next step I do in this case is I install these tarballs into a directory CFEngine in the container, and then I bind mount it into chroot var CFEngine. So this is me just making that CFEngine directory. Here, we go through and we mount bind anything in rootfs other than these things that we've already dealt with. And then after we do that, I bind mount CFEngine into var CFEngine. So the effect of that is that we are not polluting the host file system very much. We just make a directory var CFEngine, but there's nothing in it. All the contents are in the bound version inside the container. The next part is we set up the script to be used when we run in the chroot. So once we get into the chroot, we're going to test to see if CFEngine is already installed. In this case, it is because we installed it the kind of Yocto hack way. Like I said, eventually I want to get this quick install script to work with Yocto essentially. So it would know we'd have tarballs and you'd be able to do that. For the Yocto version, we have to run cfkey to generate a host key. With the package versions here, we wouldn't have to do that. That's done as part of the install scripts. And then we just bootstrap, we update, and then we run the policy set a few times. Down here, again, this is another step that is probably not necessary because we're doing this update here, which should start those processes. But that's kind of a little bit of technical debt, I guess you'd say, a little bit of leftovers. And then we just sleep forever. I'll probably change this to sleep infinity because it kind of looks cooler, but it's essentially the same thing. And then this is all piped into the script as the EOF, and then we make it executable, and then we run it. And that's inside the container. And now we've run into the chroot, and then we do this stuff, bootstrap, everything's going. And that's really the end of the
Yeah,
line
and so
for all the
at that
scripts.
point, CFEngine thinks that it is the host. It's going to see things from the same perspective as if you had installed CFEngine natively on the
Right.
host.
So I'll show you this. It's empty. It's kind of like, look, come on, no hands, right? It's not
Uh-huh.
there.
All right,
Okay,
so
so
this
there's
is all right. I see
this is on the host.
your PS1 there. Yeah, so you're on the
Yeah,
host.
this is host. Yeah. So if I do uname dash A, it's Horizon Core, blah blah
Mm-hmm.
blah, ETSIOS release, it's Horizon Core. Okay, so the next place we'll go is here, which is the container. So if actually, I'll do it this way. If I go into my here and I just run the shells, it'll go into the container. So that is uh, right. Let's just get into that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if I do Docker PS, you can
Right.
see that
Then
there's
we'll
the CF
see
engine
your
true agent. And
with the
so I just,
container ID F3 3F3. Yeah.
right. So if I go in
And
there, you can see that the host name is actually just the container ID.
right.
And we check to see what we are here. This is GNU Linux. Uh, OS release is Debian 11.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Is there anything in var CF engine? No, it's not there. Okay. So this is kind of a temporary layer, or just a kind of it's a necessary layer so that we can chroot. It's just an operating system so that we have the commands we need to chroot. If I get into the chroot, which just does the same thing, except instead of calling bash, it calls chroot on the chroot with bin bash. Um, so I'll get in there. Now we have something. Now we're back at Horizon Core like this. And now, interestingly, I can run Docker PS. And what do we have running? We have our script that we enter with that's got a sleep forever while loop. And we've got our CFEngine daemons. And we've got CFEngine. And it's um, bootstrapped to my hub. So we can go take a look at the hub. The hub is here, you see. And this is running on that same Horizon board. If I go to reports, yeah, change my password. I love that. I go to inventory. Oh, really? It's going to ask me to change my password every time? That's amazing.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
found in some breach, it said.
Which is hilarious. It's like, I'm like, well, duh. The password is super simple. It's a testing password. Like, of course it's not. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. So let's see. It started with three, right? Three F3.
Yeah,
So
three
this
F
is
three.
this. So we bootstrapped it to the hub, and there it is. So, and this actually coincidentally is uh, the hub. So if we do like Docker PS, we'll see like the hub is this container ID. So it's obviously bootstrapped to itself. So I can go here and take a look. I'm like, what the heck? I don't. It's hilarious. It's just like a demo god problem, right? Because I've literally used this all day yesterday, like many days, and it's never popped that thing up all the time like that. So we can see here that it's reporting the proper OS for the host. Now that we've got this container and chroot, the chroot really
Mm-hmm.
does reflect the host.
The host information.
Yeah, the host information. I can look down here, and sure enough, I've got CFEngine chroot, git, hub3, 213, and portainer. So I've got my Docker inventory. So now we have that host visibility. I mean, the cool thing is like we have everything. We've got load average and just,
Mm-hmm.
all the stuff.
All the standard stuff.
And so this is the host visibility. It's really cool because, we don't want to run it on that Yocto host because maybe we, want to do other things. We want to have multiple, we want to have the hub there. And
Mm-hmm.
so, this containerized methodology kind of asks for everything to be in a container. So here we are. We're in a container. Yay.
That's cool. So if you
Um,
keep pushing this ball up the hill, or like, were you going to show?
yeah, no, I think I know what you're going to say, and absolutely, yeah. So the idea, this Chroot idea came from a colleague of mine working on Kubernetes. So in Kubernetes, you have a topology of any number of kind of host systems that are running various containers, and so a, a daemon set type of node that you can run in Kubernetes that will be one per host that's running in the cluster. And I say host, essentially physical host, but obviously that's not the case a lot of times. It's just the host that has the Docker engine that then starts running all the various containers that are necessary for the different pods. Um, so what we can do is we can use this technique of an agent inside of a chroot inside of a container with the uh, to get visibility on that host that you wouldn't otherwise almost even know about or know much about. So then you can, do all kinds of stuff. You can do security audits. You can, monitor, you know, performance, things like that. Things that you might
Read
be able to
write
get
too.
someplace
You
else,
could
but
even make changes to the host, right?
it is absolutely true. Yes. It's yeah, it's yeah, you could. Mhm.
You could.
Within some
Interesting.
limits because of the way we mount things.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, essentially. So yeah, here you can see I made a report for containers inventory, and so I kind of get an overview in my infrastructure of what is running where and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep. Um, yeah, I think that's
I feel
about it.
much more clear about it when we talked. I mean, but we talked about it again yesterday. It's a lot of
Right.
layers to go through when you've got your Horizon board, and then you've got, a script to build a container on the Horizon board, and then you need to launch that container, which needs to create a chroot to pull in the
Right.
host. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So like a lot of times, like yesterday, we were working with this and I had it arranged like this is this top window is the host, the middle window is the container, and the bottom window is the chroot. So
The
it's like
chroot. Yeah.
three
That
different
helps. Yeah.
places. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to seeing some more of this develop. Does anybody have any questions? Hang around for a chit chat after the show. I guess that'll wrap it up for today. Episode 34 in the books. We'll see you guys
Yep.
next time.